Welcome everyone to the UW Communication Leadership Info Session. And for those of you who might not know much about the program, we call it ComLead, so that's what you'd hear us addressing it as today. It's a graduate program at the University of Washington in Seattle, offering communication degrees in digital media and communities and networks. The program has been around for about 20 years now. And a dynamic and applied curriculum leads students into transformative roles. And during their time in the program, students build the necessary communication knowledge, strategies, and skills to manage content, information, systems, people, and change. Quickly going over some housekeeping stuff, just to let you know, this event is being recorded so we can all access it later asynchronously. Through the ComLead website as well as the YouTube channel. You can go there to find other videos that we had in the past of other sessions and like kind of FAQs that we've addressed before, if you still have any more questions after this session. We can, like I said, we can begin by introducing ourselves in the chat. All of you are welcome to kind of just start talking about what you do and if you already have any questions. For today's session, we like to focus on the questions you all might have because we're so close to the deadline that's coming up. And so the questions might be about the application, classes, and anything else about the program. And we quickly like to introduce ourselves so that we can get to the Q&A section of today's session. Like I said before, feel free to start typing in your questions in the chat box. And once we get to the Q&A part, you can unmute yourself and turn on your video if you like to ask the question. And if you don't want to or you wouldn't like to ask the question yourself, I can just read it out from the chat also, so we can do that. Moving on to quick introductions, I'm Khyati. I'm a current student and a content marketing and strategy professional. I'm also the outreach coordinator at ComLead. It's really nice to welcome everyone here today. And we also have with us 3 wonderful staff members from the ComLead team who are basically here to answer questions for you. We have Gretchen Ludwig, our Associate Director. We have Heatherwerkle, our Assistant Director of Academic Services. And we have Xiao Zhao, our Head of Outreach. I'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves. Gretchen, you're muted. Yes.
Sorry, I have a new setup here at home, so thank you for your patience with me. I'm Gretchen Ludwig. I'm the Associate Director of Communication Leadership, and in my role, I work closely with faculty on all aspects of the curriculum. Full disclosure, I'm the newest member of the team. My job started on January 4th, so I'm very much in a deep learning mode about what we do and our wonderful faculty, alumni, and students especially. Prior to my work here, I worked for 13 years at University of Washington with undergrads, connecting them beyond the classroom, from what they were learning in the classroom to career opportunities and other research opportunities outside. And so I feel very honored and privileged to be here. This is a great program that does similar work. They're distinguished by a very dynamic curriculum that prepares professional communicators to connect to people and opportunities beyond the 4 walls, and ultimately perform at the highest possible level in the career paths that they choose. So I'm super excited to be here. I'm working alongside an incredible team, a supportive community of people with vast historical knowledge and expertise to fill in my gaps. So if when it comes to your questions and I can't answer them, I'm sure there are people who can, or I will facilitate an answer, and I encourage people to reach out to me to ask me these questions that I will find an answer for you and facilitate that to get back to you. Okay, and since we are focusing on your questions, if you have any deeper questions, you can go to our website and look around some of the faculty and the courses that we offer that are super exciting. They're super exciting to me, and I know they will be to you. So I'm going to pass the baton to Heatherwerkle. She's the Assistant Director of Academic Services, and she can talk a little bit about herself and her role here. Thanks.
Thanks, Gretchen, and welcome again. We're all excited to have you here as much as you're excited to be here. So I am Heatherwerkle. I'm the Assistant Director of Academic Services for the graduate programs in the Department of Communication at UW. And so I help students navigate the program from admissions through graduation, making sure that you're meeting all of your degree requirements, getting connected to services and resources you might need, and just on track with all of the graduate school and UW policies that graduate students have to follow. I've been with the program since September 2010, so for 10 years. Which is about half of the time the program has existed, because we're celebrating our 20th year this year. And my expertise is in student development administration and student affairs. So I'm that student advocate and student contact for people in the program. I also answer the comm lead at uw.edu email address. So if you have any questions after this session or at any point, you can send those to that general address that we have, and we'll put that in the chat. Oh, okay, Kathy just did, thank you. And so I'm the one that responds to those messages as well. So with that, I will pass it over to Li Yao to introduce her role.
Thank you, Heather. My name is Li Yao Zhao. I am the head of outreach for a communication leadership graduate program. So in my role, I provide support for student recruitment activities, career services, alumni engagement, and event facilitation. So in terms of event facilitation, I would love to share with you that we are actually planning a number of signature events that will open not only to our complete community, but also open to prospective students like you all. So one of them, which is coming up in this March, is called Connects. And this year's theme is repivoting communication and reconnecting with our community, with the community. So I would encourage you to follow up on our social media channels and keep an eye out for our upcoming programs event calendar. So in that way, you can sign up our events, and you're welcome to join us to meet our industry experts and community leaders. So stay in tune for that. I know that you want to know more about our program, so maybe we can move into the Q&A session right now. So pass it over back to Kayati.
Thank you. I'm just sending in the link for our Complete Connects 2020, which we had last year, and we kind of had to transition it very urgently from in-person to online. I was just sharing the link to that to kind of show people what it looked like. Meanwhile, if any of you already have questions, please feel free to either raise your hand if you want to ask it in person, or just start sharing it in the chat, because most of this session we want to focus it on answering questions. So this is about all we have on our end right now. Colette, we can't hear you. Yeah, I mean, it's not showing that you're muted, but still, nothing's audible.
Yeah, it's okay, Colette. Maybe we can have you type your question in the chat box, and Kathy could read the question on behalf of you. And we can probably start with the question from Leah, Kathy?
Yeah, Leah, would you like to ask it yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Leah. So I'm pretty early in my graduate program search, and I'm not really 100% sure what I want to do with my graduate degree, but I know that I'm interested in receiving one. So I was just wondering if this program was a good fit for someone who was still kind of searching for that perfect career.
I could jump in with my personal experience and perspective on this, having started a grad degree that ended up not being the right one and getting a lot of student loans to do that. I would personally say, if you know you want to work in communication, so it depends on if you already know the field and just don't know which specific job, or if you're still trying to figure out which field. So if you know you want to work in a communication industry and you're just not sure yet if that would be marketing or UX design or journalism or storytelling, like what aspect of it, then I think absolutely you can use the comm lead degree to help narrow down which specific area of communication might be a good fit for you. But if you're a step back from that and still not even sure which field is going to be right, I would just personally recommend, continue the search, doing your research, chatting with people, and not making that big financial investment until you're sure it's, at least the right program and field that you want to go into, having done that myself.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Heather. I see Marcus's hand raised. Would you like to go next?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Hi there. My name is Marcus. I'm from Los Angeles. I do have actually two questions I want to go ahead and ask you guys. One of them is going to be when you are looking over applications or the applicant team is looking over applications, I'm sorry, admissions, that's what I meant. What exactly are you looking for in an applicant, and if you have any advice as we are filling out our applications? And then the second question is, I'm just very curious about how the pandemic has changed the program outside of just the virtual format, going virtual. Like, how has the program literally, has the structure changed, or is it very similar to what it was prior? So yeah.
I think I can jump in on this one again. I would say, as far as what the program is looking for, one thing I like to use the three-legged stool analogy for the application to really represent what the committee is looking at when they're reading your application. And those three legs are your personal statement, your video, and your resume. So those three pieces of the application are showing the committee different aspects of yourself. So you don't want to repeat information between any of those. You don't want one leg getting too long and the stool falls over, or one's too short, or that kind of thing. So your resume tells us what you've done in the past. So what career, opportunities you've had, which jobs, volunteer opportunities, anything like that. So what you've already done. Your personal statement is telling the committee, what are your next goals? What are your career goals, and how is this degree specifically going to help you reach those? So the personal statement is looking at what's next. And then your video lets us get to know your passions and drives. So that's where we ask you to tell a story from your life that led you to apply to this degree. So people will talk about, family members that inspired them, travel experiences, back when we could do that, and different aspects of life that have really led them to be passionate about this field or storytelling or whatever it is. So those three aspects are really complementary to each other in the application and gives the admissions committee a glimpse of, what are your goals? Is this degree going to help you reach those? So are we the right fit? So one thing I would say is if people are just really excited about UW or Seattle, that's not very compelling because there's hundreds of programs at UW and there's lots of great things about living in Seattle, but we want to know why CommLead? Why is this the right fit for you? So that's the most important thing in the application, is to make that case for how this degree is going to help you move forward and what you want to do. Other than that, really as a professional program, we're looking at that you meet the graduate school's minimum eligibility requirements in terms of degree, English proficiency, and GPA. But aside from that, it's really about what are your goals and how are you going to fit that. So as long as you meet those minimum requirements, we're not concerned with the academic aspects as much as your entrepreneurial spirit and what your goals are. And the second part of your question about how has the pandemic changed CommLead? I would say really with a communication program that's very seminar discussion based in the classes, there haven't been huge changes. I mean, we're in the Zoom room instead of the classroom. So physically, people don't have to commute to campus or pay for parking. So that's nice, positive change. And then other than that, I've noticed that we've offered a lot more events since the pandemic started. So it's harder to kind of build community in the same way when you're not in the same building. So we've been really intentional about, increasing the number of community-based events and student events and different opportunities for people to gather virtually to connect with each other. We also introduced a Discord channel for the program, so people had a casual place to chat and interact when they couldn't just do that in the hallways or, by stopping by people's offices in the same way. So the format hasn't really changed except for being in a Zoom room instead of a classroom. But Kiati's actually been taking classes, so I can let her speak to, from the student side, what her experience has been.
Yeah, so about the first part about your question, the one way I like to kind of talk about it is how it helped me decide kind of what to talk about in my application was basically looking at the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be, and how Comlead filled that gap for me. That's usually how I kind of suggest people can approach it, because that clearly worked for me. So that's how I did it. And about the second part, like Heather said, I feel like initially when we had to like urgently in a couple of weeks transition classes online, there were obviously hiccups, but then once we knew for sure that the entire quarter is going to be online, I think the professors and the way the classes were structured, the way the whole syllabus was kind of redistributed and everything, I think they did a really good job of kind of transitioning everything online. Like Heather said, there is still the aspect of kind of taking a class in person with people is missing. I mean, that's obviously going to be missing, but like I feel like there's enough that's been done to kind of make up for that with new things that are offered virtually that may not happen in person or like in class, right? For example, I think so. I didn't take the core class right now. I took it in spring, which was online as well, which was like a 90% class, which was taken online suddenly. So I feel like the class we took in person that was 90%, I didn't get the chance to speak to people in like groups of 2 or 3 ever. We basically probably spoke in groups of 6 or 7 if we ever had discussions. But when it was online, we got the chance to very frequently talk in groups of 2 or 3. And I feel like I was able to get to talk to a lot more of my classmates in the virtual world as opposed to the in-person class. So I feel like there have definitely been advantages and kind of, trade-offs that have been made in the online version of the classes. So there's definitely stuff that's been done like that is helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. I can probably jump in and to talk about the second question briefly about how COVID has changed our virtual events at Comlead, since we are hosting a big number of career-related events. And in the past, these events happens in person, and now we move all of them into Zoom online form. The good thing is, like one, for example, like we host a 1st February event every monthly, and in the past we pick a company that we ask students to visit there. But because of the location limitation, probably we can only do the Seattle area stuff. But now with that in mind, we're moving to Zoom. Like we can have, for example, like the next one is to meet with recruiters. So we can meet recruiters from San Francisco and who are in the East Coast. So it's actually bring a larger vision for our students. So it's definitely like our students will benefit from that. And another thing is we do start to have alumni mentors this year. And same like in the past, alumni mentor could probably only can be like people who are located in Seattle, but now we could have the mentor who are in the East Coast, West Coast, or even outside the country. And that gives students more choice and more options to get access to our experts, industry experts, and engage with our alumni mentors. So these all are good things for our students, and we are trying to take advantage of that. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for answering my questions. I truly do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking them. I see Rachel's hand up next.
Hi, yeah, you did partially just answer my question, but I know that some of the UW programs have alumni mentors, and I was just wondering what opportunities there are for alumni to get involved after graduation.
Yes. So after you graduate from our program, several things. One is if you go to our webpage, you can see that we have an alumni fellow program. So which means like after you graduate, every year we select about 8 alumni fellows as a group, and they host different kinds of mentorship and events to our Comlead community. So each alumni fellow come from a different industry and from different companies. So for example, like this year we have alumni fellows come from Amazon, Microsoft, City of Seattle, as well as a couple of like other organizations. So each of them will host one alumni workshop virtually and to face it to the Comlead community. So that is one thing. And then another thing is as alumni, you can join us as an alumni mentor. So that means like we usually have this year, I think we have about like almost 15 alumni mentors, and each of them are paired with like 2 or 3 current students and from different from different like career level or different sector, industry sector. So that will give students like one-on-one coaching or small group coaching, and this will really help for our students. And another thing I would say, this year is a little bit different because as Heather mentioned, we're celebrating our 20th years anniversary celebration at Complete. So that means like we'll do more efforts to reach out to our alumni group and have them engage with our upcoming events. So for example, like the one that I just mentioned, the Complete Connects event happened in March. We're also hoping to invite a number of alumni who can join us as like alumni mentor to lead a Complete workshop to give some students some idea about how it looked like to work in this specific field. And this workshop will probably also open to prospective students or students who want to get into the communication industry or marketing industry. So these are some basic things that we're doing. Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds like really cool opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, just to quickly add to that, I think another thing that I find really amazing in terms of kind of keeping the community connected that Comly does is that most of the events or workshops that we have are open to alumni as well. So alongside current students and sometimes even faculty, we also constantly have alumni presence at those events, especially when they're virtual. So even if you already like graduated from the program, you can keep coming back to these events to kind of keep, even if it's not specifically a networking event, it might just be a workshop or like a session, and the alumni still comes back to kind of keep in touch with people and even share their experiences and everything. So like that's another way we kind of get to stay in touch with different alumni members who we may not have like met ever in person or individually.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Can I just jump onto that just for a second as an outsider to this program and seeing, comparing it with other graduate programs out there? Community is like a distinguishing essential feature of this program. And it's not just alumni, it's within faculty, it's community partnerships, it's students. I've never seen a community so connected and creating opportunities for students to extend themselves beyond the classroom and to build networks. And that's what is going to sustain you after you leave ComLead as well. So you build it from the very beginning, it sustains you throughout. And then the alumni are so connected and rich and coming back. And I'm so impressed by that. And another thing I love about this program.
That's great to know. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Gretchen. Sumiran, would you like to ask a question next? And then we can go to the questions in chat.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. So this is Simran, and so I would like to add a little bit of my background. I did my bachelor's and master's from India, and I completed my master's in like 2019. So I'm kind of a recent grad, and then in 2020, I moved to the US because I, wanted to make a career over here. So, but due to the pandemic and due to the everything shutting down, I really wasn't able to get to any company. Like I really didn't hear back from any employer. So I was still trying to kind of figure out what should I, do, because I see my 2020 like completely wasted. I was seeing like that way. But then I enrolled in digital marketing certificate course at UW. So that was like a 10-month course. I did that. And now I'm really looking forward to get into Conley because I really liked the program that I pursued at UW. So I'm really looking forward to getting admission over here. But my concern is that since I don't really have any corporate experience, like I passed out in 2019, so 2020, I didn't get any job. So I don't really have any experience. And most of the alumni that I kind of talked with on LinkedIn from UW, of course, so most of them kind of have had the experience before joining ComLead. So I just wanted to know, how much does it reduce my chances to get admission if I don't have any experience? So yeah, that is my concern.
I can answer that. And to put your mind at ease right away, Not at all. We don't require work experience in any way from applicants. And talking to alumni, what you might have seen as part of the shift that's happened in the program over time. So like 10 years ago, when I first started working for the program, the majority of students coming in were mid-career professionals. So they'd already been working for several years before coming to grad school. And over the past 10 years, we've seen a big shift in more students coming straight from undergrad into this program. So right now it's roughly a 50-50 split as far as about half of each incoming cohort just graduated within the past couple of years with their bachelor's degree, and then about half of them are, further along in their careers and have more work experience. So we welcome students from, both groups. We've even had people who have 20 plus years experience, might have white hair coming back to school to kind of retool. So really, there's quite a variety of students coming into the program based on their backgrounds. And I think that just enriches the classroom discussions and experiences where you have people that just finished their degree, haven't done maybe even an internship or anything, are in the classroom next to someone who may be a director at their organization. And so they each bring very different perspectives and experiences. So don't worry about it at all if you don't have any work experience. We're not expecting that.
I definitely vouch for that, like the fact that taking classes with people of very, very diverse backgrounds, whether it's work-wise or career-wise or culturally or anything, it is very, very enriching to kind of be in that classroom with all these different perspectives that come in. So yes.
Thank you so much. That really
Sure.
answers my question. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So we're now moving on to the questions in the chat. And if someone still wants to ask them in person, you can keep raising your hand and we'll get to those. The first one in the chat is from Boris. And I think Heather, you'd be the right person to answer this one.
So Boris is asking, so if you're admitted, as you know, we hope you will be for fall 2021, can you defer to a different quarter? Basically, can you start in spring or another quarter? We do allow deferrals, but you can only defer to autumn. So we only admit new students in autumn quarter, given the required sequence of core classes that we offer. So there's core classes students take in their first year all together as a group. As Kathy mentioned, her spring class, that was the entire, students that started in autumn 2019. We're all taking that class together as their second core class. We do have students defer each year, and we're happy to offer that option. So if you're admitted for fall 2021 and you choose to defer, you would be deferring to fall 2022, would be when you would start the program instead.
The next question is about how are classes structured and how was this pivoted during COVID? I can answer that. So if you mean like timing wise or how often classes are offered, all of our classes are offered either on weeknights or over weekends because it's a professional program. So if the class is on a weeknight, it's usually, depending on how many credits the class is for, anywhere between 2 to 4 hours each evening. I mean, once every week. So it would be like a Wednesday night is my current class, for example, which is 6 to 9:50. That's the weeknight class. And for the classes that are offered on weekends, they're usually on Saturdays from 9 to 5. Some classes are on Sundays from 9 to 5, depending on the professor, because most of our professors are like working industry professionals. So depending on what their schedule looks like, they probably take a class on Saturday or Sunday. And the classes that are over weekends from 9 to 5, they're obviously on fewer weekends, not on all the weekends of the entire quarter because they are longer. So that's usually the structure, and it stayed the same even during COVID. Like even after moving to virtual class, the schedules have stayed pretty much the same, which is kind of probably put in more breaks, I guess, and then kind of cover that up in the rest of the session. So that's what the structure of the classes looks like. The next question is again by Boris. Once life starts going back to normal, what are the plans for this department to go back to in-person sessions?
Well, since we don't know exactly when that will happen yet, we haven't made, final concrete decisions, although we're all hoping that autumn quarter will be back in person. CommLead has always been designed as an in-person program. So, but pre-pandemic, we didn't offer any online classes at all. And now, having had this experience, it's possible, that could change in the future. But our plan is as soon as we can get back in person that we will have those classes together in the communications building, again, passing each other in the hallways as usual, with those same structure, the evening and weekend classes. So that is our plan at this point.
Next question. Approximately what percentage of folks continue to hold a full-time job during the program? Is that possible or discouraged for full-time students?
I can probably jump in. I think Heather probably know the exactly percentage, but I think we do have probably around like 40% people who are working full time or part time, and because of that, they are doing the program like maybe take one course or two classes in the semester in each quarter, and while working on their other full time or part time job. So it's totally possible for a full time. But meanwhile, like we also have a big number of full-time students like Kayati. So I don't think it's a discourage for full-time students, right? And Kati could probably share her experience to work with part-time students as well.
Yeah, I think there's like, once again, a healthy mix of people doing all kinds of combinations. There's people who take only, who attend only school, who aren't really working right now. There's people who attend school full-time and work part-time like me. There's people who attend school part-time and work full-time. And there are people who do both full-time. So there's like all kinds of people in the program. And I feel like depending on what your priorities and what your requirements are, you could choose either or any of those options. But from what I've heard, especially from people who do both things full time, unless the one recommendation I would make personally is that unless you really want to kind of complete the program quickly and do it full time alongside a full time job, which it's possible. But if you do have the option to kind of take the program part time, people who've done it like that have always recommended to do it that way, because that way you stay in the program for longer and there's always new classes being added, like at least every year, if not every quarter. So you get the chance to kind of take those newer classes that are being offered, and you also kind of stay in the program and meet more people and kind of expand your network like that as well. So if you have the chance, that's what people have recommended you do. But if you don't, there are people who've done that, like Ben Porter, who's one of our alumni fellows. He worked full-time at Amazon and completed the program full-time as well. And knowing Amazon's work hours, I think you can imagine how hectic his days were, but he managed to do both full-time because that's what his priority was. So it's all possible.
I'd say from an advising perspective, what I always recommend for students considering working full-time and doing the program full-time is to start part-time their first quarter. So to go part-time their first quarter in the program so that they really get a feel for what the commitment is like time-wise in the classes. And then after doing that, they determine, yeah, I could handle an extra class. Like I could do twice as much work on school as I was doing this quarter. Then they can choose to register full-time, the next quarter or the future. And that's another thing about the program is that you're not committed in any way to being, unless you're on an F1 student visa, you're not committed to being a full-time or part-time student in any way. It's totally up to you every single quarter how many classes you register for. So you're not classified as a full-time student or a part-time student by the program. So we have some people that they're full-time one quarter, they take another quarter off completely, they come back for a part-time quarter. So they go through the program at their own pace based on what their personal life and their job looks like. And so you have that flexibility to change status, every quarter if you want to.
Awesome. I think the next couple of questions, Heather would probably be able to answer them as well.
Yes, I was just scrolling through. So what are we looking for in the video part of the application? I'd say, like I mentioned before, we don't want you to repeat any information in that video. So don't tell us where you've worked. Your resume tells us that. Don't tell us what your career goals are. Your statement tells us that. So we're really looking for each part of the application to be distinct. And so the video, you only have 90 seconds. And we're really looking for you to tell us a story about something in your life that drove you to be passionate about this field and this career. And so some examples, I've seen videos where people were cooking and talking about how food tells a story and how important, food was in their family or growing up or to them. We've had people talk about traveling and different items the souvenirs that they'd brought back from different experiences traveling and how that helped them learn about other cultures and wanting to do communication work around, intercultural communication as a response to that. people who had a grandmother who would always tell stories about her childhood, and that got them fascinated about storytelling in general and narrative structure. And so they wanted to do that. So those are just a few examples, but it's really looking for the personal side. So your resume tells us your work history, you know, what you've done. Your personal statement tells us your career goals. And that video gives us an opportunity to get to know you a little more on who you are and what you're going to bring to the program on a more personal level. I can jump right into the next one if no one wants to follow in on that. So asking about grad assistantships. So the pandemic has had no impact on funding for the program because our program is a fee-based or self-sustaining program, which means, unfortunately, we don't have assistantships like a state program might have, or you might have heard about other graduate programs. We don't get any funding from the state. Our only funding comes from student tuition. And so because of that, we have some limitations on that aspect of it, but we have some opportunities unique to ComLead that are meant to help with that. So we have the partner program, which offers scholarships for students doing projects for different nonprofit organizations. And we have a lot of students that use, financial aid, federal financial aid for the program. Or we have some students that have gotten GOMAP, which is the Graduate Opportunities and Minority Achievement Program, has some fantastic scholarships that we can apply for on behalf of our students. We can only submit 2 nominations each year for the incoming cohort, so those are a little more competitive, but we've been pretty successful in getting those for students coming into the program. And then there's the Graduate Funding Information Service, which we reference on our funding resources page on the website. That's a really great resource to help students find funding opportunities for graduate programs at UW. So that's staffed by the UW libraries. They have some online resources, and then they also offer drop-in and appointments to meet with them. And then we also have hourly positions. So Kiati mentioned she's our outreach coordinator. That's an hourly position in ComLead, and we have several more of those that students can apply to get some support during the program. And I'll pass it off to Kiati or Liao to talk more about those.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. Yes, as Heather mentioned, that's like we do have a couple of students who are graduate assistants, and they help us with different kinds of outreach activities. Like actually, Katie is going to graduate this quarter, so her position will be open to new cohort students as well. She's our outreach and recruitment coordinator, and we also have an alumni and engagement coordinator. I would say some other position will open as well. And another thing is during the COVID, we have a COVID consultancy team, and a number of them, this is through our partner program, and a number of our cohort 19 students are going to graduate this quarter. So we're expecting more positions will be available to our new cohort. And on beyond of the positions within our program, I would say we send out the weekly newsletter to share the job opportunities, not only within the communication leadership program, but also some part-time opportunities and full-time opportunities outside our program. And when we share the opportunity, we always make sure that we have a connection with that specific company or organization, so we can give you an internal refer. So in that way, you can get more firsthand practice, real world opportunity, and on beyond of your classroom. I hope that could be helpful for you.
Follow-up question on that really quickly. Where do we find the position listings that you just said on the same website as the fellowship opportunities?
So those aren't posted on a website because they're only open to current students in the program. So they go out to our student list once you're in the program.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. The next question is Colette's question. I think I don't know if we can still hear her. I could just read it out as well. So it's basically about pursuing the program full-time along with working full-time. I think we addressed that part of the question, so we're good. And the second question is there any overlap between UW certificate courses on data visualization and storytelling and the MCDM track in ComLead? I can quickly answer that. because I've taken the data visualization class in ComLead. So basically, there's different classes that are offered within ComLead, and there are a couple of classes, like you say, that probably overlap with what you learned at the certificate. But what you can do is go to the courses page and see what that exact class is about. And if you see an overlap, you can choose not to take it. But if you see something that's that would add to what you already know, you can definitely take it as well, because you basically create your own customized program within ComLead depending on the classes you take. So it's up to you whether you want a similar class to supplement what you know, or you want to kind of skip it over and just pick up something else.
Okay, sounds good. Can you hear me now? Or...
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. I had to change the setting, so yeah, great. Thanks for the answer.
Sure. Awesome.
Another thing is that students can always reach out to the instructor when they're planning their schedules for the next quarter to ask to see the syllabus, which gives a much more comprehensive view of the class and all the assignments and readings for it. So we definitely encourage that. If people are trying to decide between two classes, or like they're trying to figure out, does this overlap with something I've already done? Then you can contact the instructor to just have that discussion before you decide to jump into the class. Okay,
that's good. It sounds like you're trying to allow students to have flexibility, as opposed to making them feel like everything is siloed and it has to fit into a certain mold. So that's great.
Yeah, thank you. I think I just saw another question that was slightly related. The next one is overlap between the two tracks, and that kind of also ties into what you were just asking, and I can start talking about it, and then I think Heather or Gretchen or Leah can just add in if I miss anything. So basically, with the two tracks, you basically get the chance to take the classes that are offered in those specific tracks. You also get the chance to take up to 10 credits in the other track. Like I completed 10 credits in the MCCN track, even though I am a digital media student. And there are like a whole range of track neutral classes that are offered that basically anyone from either of the tracks can take together. So every quarter, the next question, which is at which point do you choose? Every quarter you get the chance to choose your classes for the upcoming quarter and register for those classes. So look at the courses page, like Heather mentioned, you contact the professor if you want to kind of take a look at more details about the class before you choose it. You kind of figure all of that out and then decide what classes you want to take in the upcoming quarter. But what I did before I began ComLead was look at the courses page and what had been offered in the first 3 quarters at least, and kind of have a rough idea in mind of what kind of classes I want to take. So I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but then I also probably looked at it in more detail as and when I had to register for the classes.
Yeah, it's good to hear that. That's exactly the advice I would give to students. So Kiasi's already doing that, which I probably gave her that advice way back when she started the program. As far as choosing the degree, you do have to choose which degree you're applying to when you create your application. So you're applying for admission to either the MCDM or the MCCN when you create that application. And that's what I recommend to people who are having a hard time deciding which one to choose when they're creating their application, is just like Kiati said, look at the classes page. You can see classes that are designated MCDM elective or MCCN elective, and just kind of keep a tally of which ones you're really excited to take and which degree they fall into. And that's the best way to choose which degree you should apply to. Whichever has more classes you're really interested in taking, apply to that degree, because the majority of classes you take will be within your degree. And then you do have that 10 credits outside. So that lets you, we have some NCCN students, for example, who are really focused on those classes, but they also wanted to learn, a little bit of UX design. And so they would take, 5 or 10 credits from the MCDM classes to do that, or vice versa, like Kiati did, taking some MCCN classes. So there's that little bit that you can overlap between the two, but really choosing by the classes is your best way to go.
I just want to point out too that my predecessor, Anita, who is associate director, has really created a nice distinction on one of the information sessions that you can access on our website. She really talks about broadly, more conceptually, about what type of students are attracted to each. And so you could watch that and kind of say, oh, this sounds like me, or oh, this sounds more like me. So it was helpful for me, and I've been studying those too as I'm entering this program.
Yeah, I think I can't pinpoint which info session it was, but I definitely remember Anita talking about it. I'm sure the video is up on the YouTube channel or on the website if you want to go find it later.
I think it was the December 9th one, or there was something around there. We can find it, maybe put it in the chat, but it was very informative. And she speaks for about 10 minutes about it. So it's worth your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so the next question is about the class timings, which I think we covered, so that's good. How many students in each course? I can answer that. So like Heather mentioned, the core classes, the whole cohort that just starts the program in fall takes them together. So in fall, there is one core class, and in spring, there is another. So in my cohort, we had about 86 or 87 people. So we took the two core classes together as an entire group of people. But then most of the other classes, the electives, are anywhere between, I guess, 12 to 15 to around 30 plus people, depending on what the professor wants to structure their class, how they want to do that, how many people they want in the class, depending on the project sizes and everything. So the classes I've taken have had between 12 to 15 people in some classes, and a couple of classes had around 30, 32 people. So I think that would be the range.
Yeah, most electives are around 20, is kind of the middle ground where most tend to be. But yeah, the storytelling classes, like the more hands-on classes, tend to be smaller, like Yati was saying. And then really our couple of our UX classes, which are incredibly popular, tend to be a little bit bigger.
The next question is, how many applications are received in round one, and what's the acceptance percentage?
This is always a mystery until that deadline comes, because we get over half of applications end up getting submitted on the deadline. So it's going to be hard to predict in advance. I will say for the past 10 years, the numbers have gone up every single year. So every year has been a record number of applications. This past year, we had just over 400 total applications for the program across all of the different deadlines. And our incoming cohort was just over 100. It was a little larger this year. It was 106 or 115 final number of students in our cohort 20. And so the competitiveness of admissions really depends on how many applications we get, because our goal is around that 90 to 95 students in the cohort each year. And so if we get 600 applications, it's going to be a bit more competitive than if we get the same 400, but we have to wait and see what that looks like. I will say that typically about 90%, 80 to 90% of the spots in the program are taken with that priority deadline pool of applicants. So there's fewer spaces available for the second deadline, which is a rather new development. We didn't have a second deadline before. 2 years ago was the first time we did that. So we're still adjusting to that part, but really right now, if you're looking at the program, I would highly recommend applying by February 1st to be in that largest pool of applicants and the greatest chance of getting in.
Are there any ways to waive the application fee, and what is the cohort of the MCDM program? I can answer the second question. So the whole cohort starts together, MCDM and MCCN students. The core classes are taken together, which is why it's like such a large number. Everyone takes the core classes together, and the whole cohort is just one common group. And then depending on the electives you pick and the track you've chosen, you then kind of diverge into your particular elective classes that you take later. So the whole cohort starts together, and that's about anywhere between, like mine was 87-ish, this year's was 100-ish. So around that, I guess.
Yeah, and I just put the link in the chat for the graduate school's fee waiver information. So that's a graduate school policy, and they have all the details there on who's eligible and how to apply for that.
Sumiran, have you raised a hand to ask the question you just put in the chat?
No, I think I already put it in the chat. I didn't raise the hand. Sorry, it might have been just left.
Okay. Okay. Heather, would you like to take that question?
Let me see. So, specializations. Yes, so the specializations are new. We just introduced those in fall, and that is really, if you saw that on our degree requirements page, it's a way to help students plan their elective classes. Some students are asking for kind of pathways or guides for if I want to focus in this specific area or I'm looking to get a job in this type of field, what classes should I be taking to really help prepare me for that? So that's the purpose of the specialization. It's not anything formal that you apply to. It's not on the transcript. It's just a way to help you plan your elective classes. And we're still working on some of the logistics on the website because it is so new to get that set up. So we're going to have it where you can search the classes page by specialization. So if you want to check for classes that fit into one of those, you'll be able to do that when you're reviewing the classes that are upcoming for the next quarter. But that part is still in process. And as far as asking about doing a PhD, we have had a couple of students who wanted to go on and do a PhD after the program. The full disclosure, the ComLead degrees are considered terminal professional degrees. So some PhD programs won't accept it if they require a master's degree to go in because it's not considered an academic degree. It's a professional degree as far as format. But not all PhD programs require that you have an academic master's degree to enter those. So for example, we have 2 students who have done the UW's Information School PhD program. I should say are doing. I don't think either has quite graduated yet, but they're pursuing the iSchool PhD. And we have had a couple of students go to communication or technology related PhD programs at other schools as well. I would say if that's something that's a goal of yours, it's good to start chatting with me, chatting with an advisor about it from the beginning so that you can strategically plan your classes and plan to do a larger optional research project that might help you along that path. So we have the ComLead 600 project that's an option for students that are wanting to do more of a thesis related topic or research project. That's an option for people. And so that's something you can plan for. But like I said, it's not the design of the program, but we have a few people that have done it.
Thanks, Heather. I see Connor's hand raised. Do we want to address this question?
Hey, yeah. Is it still okay to ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Hey, folks. My name is Connor. I just had a question that pertained a little bit to international applications, if that was okay. Just to give a little bit of a context, I'm from Ireland. I'm currently in Dublin, Ireland here. And the question that I had sort of pertained to, you mentioned, or there was a talk of assistantships and work and things like that. And I was just kind of curious what that looks like for international students who come in. How I know that the F1 visa is somewhat more restrictive on working while studying, and are there any opportunities within, say, the skill communications or anything like that for F1 visa holders or anything of the sort? And I was just a sort of broad, just a broad question.
I can begin. So I'm on my F1 visa and I've got plenty of opportunities on campus to be able to work. So I think the one restriction you're talking about is that in the first year, you're only able to work on campus. So, but that has also worked out well for me despite that restriction, because like Liao mentioned, the jobs newsletter that goes out, the first opportunity I got to work on campus, like when I began in September, October, was an on-campus opportunity for a social media and outreach internship. And then I also got this ComLead opportunity. So I was able to still kind of find roles that were relevant to what I wanted to do or what I was doing, even on campus. So that option is definitely there. And I think all of the other options that ComLead gives, like the partner program and the COVID consultancy positions and everything, all of that is open to all students because all of it is classified as on campus. I think it's the same eligibility as any other student. So the ComLead positions are definitely all open.
And just step in for international students, we also set up a specific workshop for this group. And we have our international ambassador and international alumni who have been working in different industries to come back to our ComLead to give a workshop to let you know as an international student how you get your career started from ComLead and what are the opportunities outside ComLead, and also how you apply for OPT, which is like after you graduate, and how you can set that up. So all of these resources are available and specific for international students to give you extra help.
Yeah, and I'll also say about a quarter to a third of our student population are international students on F1 visas. So it's a big part of our community. Currently from, I think, 13 different countries. So although I don't think we've had Ireland yet. So we have someone from the UK right now, but I don't think we've had Ireland. So we would definitely welcome you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you all for being on this call today. So thank you for that and the information.
Awesome. It's very late there, isn't it? Thanks for joining us late at night.
No problem. I'm still I'm actually sort of on Seattle time, so it's really not bad at all. It just means that I get up a little bit later in the day, and it's actually only 9 p.m. so it's not too bad.
Awesome, thank you. I think the next question Heather already answered about it being eligible for the STEM OPT for international students, which also means that we basically are eligible for a 3-year OPT as opposed to a 1-year OPT. So that's definitely true. If there's any other last questions, we can probably quickly try and take one, because I do want to be mindful of everyone's time, especially Liao and Gretchen and Heather's.
And maybe we could just mention that for in upcoming few months, we still have information sessions set up, and we'll let back Kathy, and Kathy will invite our student ambassador or alumni to share their experience at ComLead. So if you want to learn more about authentic experience, so stay tuned on our ComLead calendar.
Yeah, we have about one a month from like March, April, and May. And also we've already done a few of those in the past. Again, if you just go to the YouTube channel, you'll be able to see some like student-led sessions where it's only our students talking about our experience, and some that are also like where the staff joins in to kind of help answer specific questions.
And to
I
answer
saw the question about how to schedule an appointment with me, so I put my appointment link in the chat there, which also is in the, if I've ever emailed you, it's in the bottom of my email signature as well.
And just to answer Collect's question about March Connection event, we're still planning that event, and once we set up all the schedule, it will be available on our webpage and ComLead calendar, and we'll also send out an email to everyone.
Awesome. Oh, there's just one final quick question. Is the application still open to international students after round 1?
Yes, so our first 2 deadlines, so February 1st and March 31st, application deadlines are both open to international students. And so that's geared around how long it takes to get a visa, assuming we're in person in autumn and people will be coming to Seattle. So there's still plenty of time to complete that process with either of those deadlines.
Awesome, great. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to, like Heather mentioned, just send us an email or contact us on any of the social pages or the email IDs that have been shared already. And I will stay around for like a couple of more minutes in case anyone wants to kind of access the links that are in the chat. So I will like keep this meeting open for people to like open up any of the links. But thank you so much for everyone for attending this event, and thank you so much for all your questions and your answers. I hope this was helpful. Thank you.